My guest today is Christian Sundberg. He is the author of a book called A Walk in the Physical, and he is an experiencer of pre-birth memories. For me, this is one of the interviews that I have been most excited about and looking forward to. I've had him on the books for months, but he's someone who I had been aware of for over a year. I'd seen him do interviews on other podcasts that I'm a fan of. In fact, the last one that I listened to, there is another podcast called Next Level Soul that if you are interested in the content of this podcast, I think you all would love that one as well. When I finally decided I did want to do a podcast, I actually, when I thought of when I was fantasizing about the types of interviews I would do, it was interviews with guests like Christian and stories like his that I imagined myself doing. So there have been a couple times on this show where I have felt like, to me, I was meeting celebrities. I've mentioned before that I'm kind of a near-death experience geek. Those are the things that really excite me and give me a sense of the magic of what's going on in reality. Give me a sense of hope. I think they're great teaching tools for how we could live life in the physical more fully, more connected to ourselves, to God, to the other side, to spirit, all things like that. It's those stories that I think really bring that down into this physical experience that we're living. And so specifically though, it was Christian's interviews that I had seen and his story that were the basis of that idea of what I wanted my show to be about. So when he agreed to be on the show, I had one of those moments where I'm like, okay, this is just turning out to be so much more cool than I ever imagined it could be. I know I say a lot in interviews that I'm like, this podcast serves me so much. It's a mirror for me and what I guess fantasized about, and it's mirroring back to me that yes, you can create your reality in ways that are far beyond what you ever imagined. Um, so another thing is I'm also finding that these people who I held up on pedestals, because I think we do that a lot. We see somebody on a screen and it feels like, oh, they're larger than life and they're celebrities, but I'm finding that they're so down to earth and humble and just other people, that that's kind of a neat transition for me too. But uh, again, Christian Sundberg is his name. He's the author of A Walk in the Physical. He's given multiple talks. He's done multiple interviews. Wonderful person. And a couple of the things that I think going into the interview that it might help to have some background knowledge about when you hear it is this idea. I loved the idea when he got into talking about the scope of our interactions down here on Earth, the scope of the things that we do in relation to the quality of the things that we do, in terms of how we may go about affecting change in the world. What I mean by that is I brought up to him in the interview some concerns that I'd had for myself and that other people have talked about. They don't know what their purpose in life is. They don't know what they should be doing. And he was talking about how we get hung up on scope, especially in our society, that we think we need to do something grand. The scope should be very large as to what we do, how we should affect things. We need to take it all the way to the top. Let's say my podcast, for example. I may be thinking I need it to be huge. I need to have millions of followers and to be able to affect change on a grand scope. But that what's really important is not the scope, but the quality of it and the intent of it. That it doesn't really matter if I have one or two people who listen to the show and get something out of it that has just as much meaning to, let's say, God or to the realm of spirit than, well, and it could possibly have more meaning to the realm of spirit than if I were to have a million followers. And the quality of the show is really nothing that enriches people's lives or spirit in a certain way. Is one way of putting it, but that really did affect me because I was already feeling that. There's something in me that's telling me it does not matter how many followers you have, how many people are listening. If one person hears something and it alters their experience here in some positive way, that's good enough. He told a story in the interview that you're going to hear that kind of reiterates this. It was a near-death experience that he'd heard about in which uh, the person telling the story, they were on a family trip and they had gone down to a river or a pond at a rest area. I can't remember, but they had to get some water in a bucket for the family for some reason. And on the way back up the trail from getting the water, they noticed this small tree off the path a little bit and decided to go over and give it some water. And in this person's, I believe it was their life review, they got to see how that was one of the most impactful and important decisions that the person made in their whole life, was to give water to that tree. So again, it wasn't the scope of what this person did. They didn't change the world. They gave water to a young tree, but it was the quality of that act that really counted and really mattered. And I'd like for people to remember that as they go through life wondering what their purpose is. Our purpose is those little things, extending love wherever we can, whenever we can. And when you're in the right mindset to do that, I know that sometimes we get so caught up in life that we're like, I don't have it in me right now to do anything loving, do anything giving. I feel like I'm tapped out. I've got nothing left for anyone else. But you don't need to change the world in some grand way. You can always commit a random act of kindness in whatever way, and it's so much more impactful when it does just come from a place of, I don't want anything in return. I just want to do it because that's what I'm really designed to do. That's what we as souls are. We are love, and we don't receive that love unless we give it. You don't get anything that you don't give. Yeah, I didn't intend for this to be a long, rambling introduction, but I thought Christian deserved some setup here, and I didn't want to use up any of the time that I had with him introducing him in the interview, so I thought I'll just record the introduction later. But yeah, the following is my interview with Christian Sundberg. I hope you enjoy. So, Christian, if you don't mind, why don't you tell us about what you do now as Christian here in the physical, and then we'll go to the story of how you had your pre-birth memories, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks so much, sir. So right now in the physical, in the human context, I'm a project manager. I've been a project manager for a little over 20 years in different Fortune 500 corporate contexts. Right now I work for an insurance company. I spent 16 years working in the nuclear industry, managing nuclear valve and pump manufacturing projects. I don't identify, primarily with professional role. I'm also a father. I have two beautiful children, and I love to do this kind of work. This is just so much joy for me to be able to share this message. So I guess in a few seconds, that's how I describe myself.
Well, great. I love that too, because what we're going to get into is so, esoteric and profound, I guess, to see that
Yeah.
people like you are still just living regular lives, and you're still dealing with being a human, because what we're going to dive into is a step away from that.
Well, yes, it's not actually a step away, but I understand, of course, it seems like that. We're having the human experience very much, and we're all doing the human thing. That's what we're doing here.
Uh-huh.
But the human thing exists within that which we really are, and that's always present. So I'm just I don't want to separate the two.
You're right.
But yeah, I'm happy to try to comment to that which transcends the human. I think that's really important to talk about.
Yeah. So then how I've introduced you as someone who has pre-birth memories. And of course it is what it sounds like, pre-birth memories, but it isn't something that you've always had. Can you get into
Mhm.
how you at what point in your life did you remember these things, how they came back to you, and how they've affected your life since then?
Yeah, sure. So actually, as a very young child, up until about maybe the age of 5 or 6, I did have some pre-birth memory. Pre-birth here meaning not just before the birth out of my mom, but existence before incarnation. That's really what we're talking about when we say pre-birth. So I used to think back on and look into those memories up until the age of like 5 or 6, and then that memory left me completely between the ages of like 5 and 30. My body is 45 years old right now, so about 15 years ago, I took up a long-term meditation practice, and after several months, I began to have out-of-body experiences. And this pre-birth memory at right about the same time began to arise. It was just there. It was so clear. It was so normal. It was just like what I am, what I've done. And so, yeah, from that point onward, it was like, oh my gosh, like I really wanted to share it, but I also didn't share it for about 8 years because I'm a working professional. It's the kind of thing you don't really talk about,
Right.
but yeah, it's definitely something that's present for me all the time now. I can feel that layer of being. And I'm happy to try to share about it, but it is not easy to do that. It's something that vastly transcends human language and human limitation. So I just want to say that up front before I try to share it today, that words just can't possibly do this justice. Words are form, symbols for our local world, and our true nature so fully and vastly transcends this local context that it's quite impossible to try to put any language on it and do it justice.
Well, you still do a great
Yeah.
job because I've heard you tell it multiple times, like I've said. So
Thank you. Thank you.
you're perfect for the job.
Thanks.
So, you mentioned having out of body experiences, and this is something
Yeah.
that I had a question about as I'd listened to your story before. When you had those out of body experiences, the memory of pre-birth, that wasn't with you yet, or again, was it when you were going through the out of body?
I would estimate that I had several months of a time where I was having non-physical experiences and did not yet fully have the pre-birth memory have returned. So maybe I'm going to guess 4 months into meditation or 5 months into meditation is when I had my first non-physical experience. And maybe 8 months after meditation, I would guess, is approximately when the pre-birth memory had returned. It's hard
Okay.
to know exactly, but yeah, there's a period of time there. Yeah.
Well, I only ask because in my 20s, I had about a year and a half of spontaneous out of body experiences
Hmm.
and didn't have a lot of context for them. I had a little. I grew up with some unique parents, I guess you'd say. I was told from a young age that I chose my parents, that I was
Mm.
responsible for my life here. I didn't know about out of body experiences. It wasn't until I became obsessed with what was happening to me that I came across some books, and then Robert Monroe and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, here's what's going on, and this is amazing. But I didn't,
Yes.
I didn't have a context. I knew that I loved what was happening after I got over the initial, like, what is this? And
Yeah.
actually, I became obsessed with it to the point that I feel like either myself or some team I have on the other side is like, okay, you need to shut it off. He's ignoring his life, and he's becoming obsessed with wanting to get out.
Hmm.
And you kind of mentioned that too.
Hmm.
When you have experiences like this, I think you said it about yourself, but I think others would feel it too. You can become obsessed and lose track of why you're in the physical in the first place. So when I asked that, it was like I wondered if you had any context for it, or were also kind of feeling the same way when these out of body experiences were happening to you.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to that very much. I wouldn't say obsessed, but I definitely, okay, because those experiences are so, at least for me, they're so eye-opening and so joyful and fun
Yes.
that in comparison, it's like, why would I do the physical when I could do this? Like I mean, I'm in simple language, it was like that. But like you say, like I really felt, I don't know if this is the right word, but called, nudged to focus physical and to be physical. Like I'm here to be physical now.
Exactly.
And I feel like I've always been kind of responsive to that quote unquote feedback. So sometimes in my pre-birth awareness, even I'll like try to reach into something and query something, ask a question or something. And it's pretty common that I get it. No, you don't need to know that right now. And that's okay. That's totally okay with me. Like I'm here to be human. I'm here to do the human thing and actually experience this. We are already on the other side, actually. So those experiences are already available to us. Whereas the extreme human experience, because it is an extreme experience, is quite unique. It's quite special. So it is very meaningful that we actually experience being human while we're here and not get lost. That's one of the reasons that the veil is in place, actually. It allows us to remain focused into the physical without distraction. That's
Yeah.
valuable.
And you have a unique take on the veil that I would love to hear about too, as you tell, if you wouldn't mind, in whatever sequence, starting from whatever point you
Okay.
would like, telling the story of the pre-birth memory.
Sure. Okay, so I know how this sounds. I'm just saying that up front because I'm going to dive right in. It might sound a little woo-woo, but there's not really any other way to put it, because this is, like I said, so big. It's so vast. And these memories are not like earthly memories. They're like very, very real, alive, like now, even though they also feel ancient, like millions of years ago. So I don't know how to describe that. And they're also, okay, so there is a sequence in the memories, but it's like they're also all taking place within the one now. So this is, that's difficult to articulate. But I'll dive right in. Okay, so I remember existing before I had ever physically incarnated. and coming across a being who had physically incarnated. And I was with a large group of hundreds of beings. We were in a realm of light, and we were doing a similar energetic work or activity, you could say. And as we were moving across this landscape, I could feel this being because in that, okay, so in the higher systems, our connection is telepathically known. So we share information and feeling and knowing just very readily, it's very full and complete. And I could feel from him this incredible vibrance of being. It was like he was so bright and powerful and full of joy. And I was like, oh my gosh, what are you? How do you know? Do you feel as much joy as I feel that you feel? That was my question to him because I was like feeling it, but I was like, oh my gosh, how is this who you are? And he shared with me, yes. And he shared with me telepathically that he had lived. Well, okay, so he shared a lot with me, but in particular, he had lived one physical experience in which he had suffered a long-term health condition, a pain, and the pain that lasted with him for years. There was a certain way that he met that pain, like a way that he chose to meet it, how he chose to respond to it and integrate it. And it facilitated this incredible deepening of his being. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I'm going to do that. Like, I was just so I was so inspired. And at first he said something like, and this is not negative, but it was something like, well, that's what they all say. Like,
Yeah.
you just don't know what you're asking. Like it was a simple comment like, well, you're just ignorant to what you're asking. You don't know how hard this can be, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, no, I mean it. And he said, well, then go talk to your guides. So I don't have right after that, but I know I found that being later in my experience progression and shared with him, okay, see, I'm on this path. Like I had lived a number of times and I was sharing with him, I'm on this path, and he was very encouraging. Okay, so most of the pre-birth memory is of a time somewhat immediately preceding this life and the one just before this life, where I had taken a long break and I was in this realm of golden light. And it was like I was connected to all things and engaging in all this creative activity that's very difficult to describe because it was energetic. And this guide coming to me over and over again and asking me every once in a while, are you ready to go back yet? Are you ready to go back yet? And saying, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. Just kind of like putting him off. And not like pestering me, but just kind of like reminding me of my own intention, you know?
Yeah.
And then eventually saying, okay, I'm ready. And then reviewing with this guide what I can only describe as my state, like who I am and what I had been and what I knew, what I understood at the being level, not just intellectually, but like what I really like understood, had integrated. It was like, this is just a metaphor, okay, but it was like if you made a graph with 1,000 data points on it and they were all at kind of different places or something. There was this one that was just so blatantly obvious. It was almost like a funny joke, like how easy it was to identify the thing that I should work on. I don't like the words work on, but it's kind of the closest thing we have in English, you know? And it was kind of funny. And it was this very low vibration fear that in a previous experience had bested me. Because fear gives rise to egoic patterns. And in that life, I was very egoic and I had caused harm for many other people through that ego and through that pain. And I had died a very painful death in that life because of the fear. The fear had led me into a very painful experience. So I could see like, oh my gosh, like this is so deep and low vibration. And I know this. Can it even be done? Can it even be like processed and integrated and healed? And I was actually asking because it was such a low vibration. I was like, and I said, has any other being in creation ever done something this extreme in this way? And I was told yes. And you have all of time available to you to do so. There's no hurry. This is like kind of communicated at the same time. And I just knew like, well, if it can be done, I will do it. Like as the human, it sounds strange to me to even say it because this has been very challenging for me this lifetime. But at the time, I knew what we are. You know, I knew my immortal, multidimensional nature, and I just knew, like, well, if it's possible, if it's vibrationally possible, I will do it. Okay, so then they brought me a lifetime that was appropriate for that intention to meet that fear, and it wasn't this lifetime. It was one just preceding this one. And I remember reviewing that lifetime in incredible detail, and then I remember saying yes to that lifetime, and then I remember accepting the veil. Okay. So the veil is just a word for the constraints in consciousness that we take on and wear in order to have the physical experience. So it includes primarily forgetting, you know, like it's not just forgetting, but man, have we forgotten a lot. Like down here on earth, it's crazy level forgetting. But it's also not just forgetting, it's also this sense of disconnection or separation. And so I remember this plummet in vibration, down, 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 lower, 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 like in the body of my awareness, plummeting down, having all of my knowing be cut off, and all of my connectedness disappear, and all of my, like understanding just being kind of wiped, and arriving to this very small, dense place that felt simultaneously very, very dense, like being shoved inside of a tuna can, and also being cold, like energetically cold, not physically cold, in the body of the fetus that was in my mother at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so dark. This is so separate. And after a very short amount of time, I said, I'm not doing this. Like, this is crazy. This is crazy. Like, I'm not doing this for a lifetime. And I had fear rise up because I felt like I had lost all that I really was. And so I summoned my might. I knew I was a powerful spiritual being. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And I smote the veil. I punched my way through it. And I was successful in doing that, but I immediately had a life review and could see that I had killed the fetus that was to be my body in my rejection. And I could see how the mother had a miscarriage because of my fear, and how I had heaped grief upon the mother and affected not only the mother, but hundreds of other people that the mother would interact with, because I made her grief more. And so now she would kind of bring that to other people. And, it's okay. Like, this is hard to describe because from that point of view, you see, it's okay. Like, there's nothing actually like truly wrong. It's just a big play. You can't actually fail. But I could also just see like, oh my gosh, like that is not the outcome that I was trying to have here. I really wanted to help the players in the game that I so loved and respected. But instead, I had just like caused more challenge for them. So I still wanted to do this. So then I remember spending time, and I know this sounds wild, but I remember spending time in a place that I call the Veil Acceptance Simulator. It's like a place that you can surrender your control to a pretend veil, like a mock veil. And metaphorically, the way I describe it is like being dunked in the dark water of a swimming pool. And they dunk you underwater, and then you see if you can like let go and let your vibration drop. And then you can cry uncle if you want, because it's just a simulator, and they'll let you back out. I can tell you the real veil is a lot more challenging than the simulator.
Yeah.
So anyway, eventually, since I still wanted to do this, I still wanted to meet this fear, so eventually they brought me this life as a Christian. And I remember reviewing this life in incredible detail. I mean, like, reviewing millions and millions of possibilities of how this life might unfold all at once, like in seconds. And it was like if you took a tree and laid it on its side, started at the thick part of the tree and worked your way out to the branches. It was like a flowchart of probabilities. So there were some branches of the tree that were very likely to occur, almost certain, And then there were other branches that were much less likely. And so what was the thing that was going to determine which branch actualized? My choice making and the choice making of every other player in the game, the free will choice making. And I could see that it was very likely that my body would experience a health condition that would cause me to, not cause, but give me the opportunity to re-experience this fear in my early 20s. And that did happen. That did happen in this life. Physically, what happened is I was trying to teach English in Chengdu, China, after I had studied abroad in Beijing when I was in college. And I had a heat stroke in this hot jungle city and spent 4 days in the hospital, and they pumped my body full of potassium for 4 days. And something about that, I had just this terrible neurological pain that lasted with me for months, and my body didn't sweat for 11 months, and I was just in physical agony for months that I couldn't escape. So that was the physical manifestation of that in this life. At the time, that is actually not the only way it could have actualized, but it was one of the probable ways.
So I'm sorry.
Yes.
To interrupt. So was the fear, because I had this question, I
Yeah.
haven't heard you mention what it was the fear that you experienced before incarnating, the fear of that pain that you'd be going through? Or did you know what,
Mm-hmm.
'cause you said that there was a certain thing you needed to work on
Mm-hmm.
that was blatantly obvious, and it was
Mm-hmm.
to get through this fear. Was this the thing then?
Okay, so that's a good question. So the fear that I came to process, okay, so fear is based in a perceptive, which leads to a negative self-perception that is not in alignment with the truth. So
Mm.
the best way I have found to describe the fear is to describe that negative self-perception. So the nature of that fear was I am unable to escape agony. So I'm powerless, mixed with being too proud to suffer.
Uh-huh.
That was the quality of the energy of the fear. That was the quality of the perception that I lost myself in that hospital bed in Chengdu, China. Okay,
Yeah.
so now just after incarnating, okay, the nature of the fear was not exactly the same, but it is related because there's a powerlessness in surrendering to the veil and in suddenly being unable to do anything. Like in the body, it's like we suddenly are very limited.
Uh-huh.
So it is not the same exact fear, but because the body and the circumstance and the energy of what I was signing up for, they were kind of I don't know, built's probably not the right word, but they were appropriate to support the lead to that fear energy. And so there was definitely a quality of it that was with the body since the beginning.
And
But
that's
it wasn't the full, like it was still a different, it was still like the nature of the fear I experienced just after incarnation was more broad, you could say. It was more general, whereas this fear that I came to process was a very, very specific low vibration fear.
well, that was another question that I had when I was listening to you describe how they turned the frequency down, and as they got,
Yeah.
so far down, like, well, they turned it down some more, and it just kept going down.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was specifically for your specific experience because you needed to go through something in which the frequency was turned down, at least to your perception, so low, or is that
Yeah.
you have an inkling as to that's how it is for everyone in terms of
Yeah.
the relative energy or frequency we exist at over there? It's going to feel like us bottomless. They never stop dialing it down. Or was that
Okay,
just for
that's a
you?
great question. Okay, so in broad terms, all of us are at a very low vibrational place in comparison to our native state in the physical.
Yeah.
So in general terms, we've all come a very long way vibrationally. However, each and every incarnation has a unique vibration and a unique vibrational place because every body is unique, every biochemistry is unique, every family is unique, every society is unique, every planet is unique, every universe, like every single part of the context has its own energy. And then we're bringing our own unique energy into it. So not only are there all those variables, there's also the variable of, and this is something that I've never really heard talked about, but I remember this very clearly. There's a depth of engagement that we each choose to engage the physical in. Okay, so what I mean is you can play it. This is just a metaphor. I'm just making up numbers now. But let's say you can have a level one. I'm just totally making this up. But let's say you have a level one engagement, and it's kind of like you're not as deeply immersed. So you're here, but it's not as rigorous because the distance is not as rigorous because you're not as your surface area of interface is lower, something like that. I don't know how to describe this.
I got you.
Whereas someone who comes in with more awareness actually tends to have a greater surface area of interface because they are engaging the physical in consciousness in a broader, deeper way. Okay. So, in other words, it takes more bravery, strength, whatever, to more deeply engage the physical and more deeply, you could say, swallow it or something. I'm just trying to use a metaphor here in the body of one's awareness. And that level of engagement is unique to each being and each life context. And it can be tweaked. Like, for instance, I asked in my pre-birth planning, can I have a small bit of memory this time? Like, I would like to not forget every single thing. And they said, yes, you can do that, but it will make it more difficult. In other words, that surface area of engagement would have to be higher because my sensitivity would have to be higher in order to have any level of connection at the human personality level, because at the deeper level, we're always connected, we're always there. But at the human personality level, to be able to consciously access that and touch it would require a greater sensitivity, which would make the rigors of the physical even more poignant and
Yes.
therefore even more challenging. So I can't say why exactly these two incarnations that I'm describing were so, because I know that I've lived many hundreds of times. So I don't personally understand what made these two so uniquely low vibration, but man, they were for me. That's all I can say. Like I can't fully explain why these two were so unique, but oh my goodness, they were.
Did you get the sense or any sort of insight into if I get through this incarnation and I guess do it quote unquote successfully? will, in terms of the graph you're looking at, I'm looking at a bar graph where, the
Sure.
accomplishment
Yeah,
is
that's
higher.
bar graph.
Will,
Yeah.
will you be raised to the point where you're like, I no longer need to work on this anymore? Or is it something that might take multiple lifetimes just because it's such a difficult thing to work on? Even if you quote unquote nail it this time, knock it out of the park,
Yeah.
will you still have to work on this particular type of
Yeah.
your
The
experience?
the technical answer is it can all be done at once. The practical answer is it can take multiple lifetimes
Mhm.
because of the the width, or the if this bar chart has a width to the bar, and I don't know, or we're just trying to do a certain thing that's pretty rigorous. Like I know that vibrationally what I'm doing in this life is personally very deep and meaningful for me and for the collective. But it's also something that's like too big for one experience, actually. So it's like I'm doing the lion's share of the processing here, but integrating the entire cavern might not be possible within one context set, practically speaking. Technically speaking, it can all be done now. That's important to lift up because we always have the power now to say yes, to
Yeah.
integrate fear, to choose love rather than fear. Like we always have that power now. So practically, we might require multiple iterations in order to successfully do that.
I- I'm feeling that in my own life, whatever it is I came to
Yeah.
work on specifically, it's beyond the narrow path and to step off, get back on. It's a constant
Yeah, and that's okay. And
yeah.
that's okay. I think a lot of people they really harp on themselves or something. Oh, I must not have gotten this yet. Dude, we are at a high level difficulty game here in general. Like it's okay. Like we are going to oscillate. Most people are going to oscillate. You know what I mean? And this experience integration thing tends to happen in waves. Life tends to happen in waves.
Yeah.
So above, so below. There's days on Earth, there's seasons on Earth, there's cycles. We tend to do that through form as we integrate form. So we tend to go through periods of deep integration and then periods of maybe return to physical reference or something. That's normal.
I'd love to hear you say that. My wife and I try to articulate that too. We just talk about seasons. Like I'm in a season
Yeah.
now of integration. Well, this season's now where I'm backing off from all of the spiritual information or maybe even the practices, and I'm just going to fully engage with whatever the culture around me is doing and just kind of relax for a while, and then we get back into it, and it does feel to me to be more productive. That's the way I work anyway. But
And actually, it's very useful for us to align with that natural process. Because the ego might say, oh, I have this new task. Oh, my new task is spiritual growth and to overcome these things. Let's just, darn, I don't like it, but let's do it. Well, the I don't like it part is based in fear and
yeah,
rejection somewhere. So I'm just saying that we can basically trust the natural cycles of life. And the main thing we can do to even expedite and facilitate that process is to be willing, wherever we are right now. So say yes, participate in the waves. Don't hold them back and reject them. It's kind of like I've used the metaphor, and I know this is maybe a bit of a crude metaphor, but like labor.
yeah,
You know, you don't. The baby doesn't come out through holding it in. It's like it's easier if now I haven't had a baby. I'm not a woman in this life, but it's like if you allow the waves to come and don't fight them, you are participating in the natural process, and we can do that with our fear integration processes as they arise in our own lives.
well, that right is what's really I'm integrating lately is the allowance. What one of my other
Mm-hmm.
guests who teaches A Course in Miracles, she called radical acceptance. To just if there's resistance, then in whatever way I try to recognize it and let it go. But I didn't mean to pull you away from where we were in the
No,
story.
no, that was good.
And you were being given potassium, is where you were at?
Yeah, so I had a heat stroke. My potassium was low. For some reason, they gave me many, many bags of potassium in the hospital over 4 days. And something about that physically fried my nervous system, and I experienced a heck ton of pain and a neurological distress that was profound. That's how the physical event actualized. But what was meaningful is rather that permitted. See, it's not a victim thing. Even though I went through post-traumatic stress for like 5 years after this, I couldn't even remember up to the age of 22 to try to like disassociate from this memory. It was so painful. And I went through years of EMDR therapy to face and process this. So like it was not a simple thing. But I know now that, oh my gosh, that was actually a profound opportunity. And I know the ego doesn't like that. Like the ego wants to say, no, F this, I'm not doing that. Okay, but the thing is, the universe is here for us, not against us. That's really important. Like life is here for us. Okay, so like as we say yes, we find that actually there's great value in that challenge. So that event gave me the opportunity to buy into the perception of complete powerlessness at the moment. And that is what I had signed up for, so to speak, pre-life.
So the opportunity was to buy into, to fully go into that experience. Is that what you're saying? To buy into that powerlessness? Is that what you
Yeah,
meant?
so and I should clarify because it's not simply that I had the opportunity to experience fear. Fear itself is not actually useful itself. Uh, we're not saying pain is good or suffering is good. Rather, having the opportunity to re-experience something in myself that was stuck and tangled was very useful.
What was the thing that was stuck in
That fear,
Okay.
that perception that in a past experience I did not meet it well.
Which is to get there again, so you had a chance
So
to.
so I had exactly to get there again. So I had a chance to
Okay.
re-experience it.
So in that sense, there's a sign that you're crushing it this time. You didn't miss that opportunity.
I did not miss the opportunity this time. I can at
Okay.
least say that.
So then going from there, then I don't know if we'd made it through the full
No, I'll jump
unraveling
back in.
of
Okay,
the
so they brought me this life. I reviewed it in detail. I asked for certain things, and I made certain requests of the life. Like I asked, can I be intelligent again? Because I knew that in preceding experiences I had been intelligent, and I appreciated that trait. And I knew that it would be important to be male. Not that men and women have any advantage or something. It's just different energies. And something about being male would provide something of like an obtuse edge, actually, to be able to meet this fear. And so, anyway, after reviewing this in incredible detail, I remember there having to be a moment to say yes, and I don't remember that moment, but I do remember being in a waiting area, and then this guide coming to me and grabbing my attention over my left shoulder. That was just, I didn't have a shoulder, but it was like from that direction, saying, go now, like grabbing my attention, like really abruptly, like very like, you're on Earth time now, buddy, you got to go right now. Almost like if I waited there for 5 seconds, it would be like 100 years or something. So I had to go right now. And suddenly I was in this place that I can only describe as, I don't know, like technician's chamber or something, an auto shop, I don't know, some kind of mechanical room that was over the earth. I could see the earth below me. There was a shaft. I was hovering over the shaft. I could see the earth below me. And there were these beings there who I can only describe as veil application technicians. They're very technical being, like tinkerers or something. And so they do this thing where they make the veil organically fit for you because the soul is so unique, the body is so unique, the life context is so unique, and so they're really good at like matching everything to make it all jive so that the veil is like watertight, I guess you could say, something like that. So they tailored it and they had it ready, and they said one last time, are you sure? Are you ready? Are you sure? And I said yes, and I knew once I said yes in here, once I said yes here, I was strapped in. like getting on a roller coaster, you can't get off now until the roller coaster comes to a complete stop, kind of thing. So then I remember the veil coming over me and plummeting down in vibration, down, 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 more, and then more, and then more, and then more, and then like I thought I was at the bottom, and it kept going, and it was just ludicrous. And this time, just focusing on not fighting it, because I remembered the first time that I knew that if I just want to let this thing like take hold or sink in. It's like letting a cloak, this is just a metaphor, but like letting a cloak grab a hold of me and sink in or something, and giving my own power to it, actually, because we are sovereign beings. So there needs to be a self-surrender into the limitation set for it to take successfully. So I was surrendered to the veil, and then I was in the darkness of the womb. I mean, not visual, well, there was some visual darkness, but it was more about energetic darkness. Like it was like a vacuum. It was just cold and separate, and I had no knowing. And I remember sending one message back to the technicians, did it take? Did the veil take? And they sent one message back, yes. And then I actually felt accomplished. I know that sounds funny, but I knew like just even making it to the physical is like a feat. It's not a small feat to even just make it to the physical. I was like, yes, I made it. This is so cool. Okay, so then I was there for a short time, and then that fear began to rise up again. The same fear, because as I experienced the first time right after incarnating, because I was like, dude, I am not doing this. I lost all that I am. I lost all of my power. I lost all of my connectedness. I can't see anything. I'm not going to do this for a lifetime. A whole lifetime of this? Are you kidding me? No way. So once again, I began to summon my might to fight my way out. And as I did that, the most holy moment of my entire life happened, and there is no language for this. I felt my entire being expand back out, and I felt all of the universe within me. And I felt even beyond the universe, but all of the universe. I felt everything, all that is within me. And I felt the sun of earth was one of the things in me. There was endless thing. It was so huge. I can't describe how vast and joyful and blissful it was. But one of those things was the sun. And the sun was churning with bliss. It was alive, like it had a consciousness to it. I know that I don't understand how that can be, but I felt it. I knew it. The sun was in me. It had a churning bliss to it. And the great I am of all things, that which we call God or source, said to me, and this is not in words, but the clearest communication you can imagine, this is still what you are. You can never not be this. It hurts to think on because it's so poignant and so personal. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't lost all that I am. Oh, then I don't have to fight, you see. Because I was fighting because I was reacting in fear, thinking I had lost all that I am. That was the misperception of that moment, is I've lost all that I am. It was a false perception. I hadn't lost all that I am. So knowing that, I was like, oh, I can stop fighting. So I stopped fighting, and I returned to the relatively simple existence of being in the womb. And I was there for a while. I don't know how long. Felt like a long time. And then I remember the day I was born. I remember the sight and the sound and the touching and the pain of circumcision. And I remember looking at the nurses and being super curious, like, who are these beings? Like, something's happening, and I had no idea what it was. I just knew that there were like beings of some kind that were like paying a lot of attention in my direction. And it was very shocking. It was bright. It was loud. It was like, I didn't know what was going on, but I was very curious. And then, okay, so then I don't have much after that. I have some very spotty memories of early life. Like when my body was 10 days old, I almost died. I aspirated and turned blue, and they had to take me to the emergency room, and they baptized me in the hospital because the doctor said he's not going to make it. He's going to pass. So I don't know if that has anything to do with everything I've just shared. I kind of have always just wondered a bit, if maybe somehow there was something going on there. But anyway, so after that, as I aged, I used to look back on the flowchart memory, the tree memory, and just like check things out. Like, oh, what's going to happen today? What's going to happen tomorrow? Where are we going to go next week? Just like simple things as a child, like just the most mundane things. I was like, oh, I don't have to ask anybody. I'll just go look. You're like, oh, okay, someone's going to come over tomorrow. That's fun. But as I got older, especially by the age of like 5 or 6, that memory left me completely. I couldn't do that anymore. So that's a quick summary. So now in my day-to-day experience, I'm happy to share that experience. But as you mentioned, maybe before we started recording, like I don't feel it's the most important thing to share. I'm happy to share it, but what's more important is like what we really are. Like, what are we all really? We are all this multidimensional consciousness, and we all ultimately have nothing to fear. I'm very passionate about lifting that up because this is real. This is not just like a religious or new age woo-woo thing. This is just the nature of spirit, the nature of consciousness, the nature of being, that we already transcend this really, really deep simulation that we're engaged in now. And our true nature is complete and total love and peace and freedom and joy. That is the truth. And I just want to lift that up. Because if we know who we really are, even in small measure, how much more free are we to live lives of joy and to do the things we came here to do, to meet the fears, if maybe that's part of what we're here to do, or to be there for each other, to help the planet or help society. Like, we can do all of that so much more when we're not shackled by all this like small ego fear stuff. So anyway, I'm still human, like we talked about before recording. I'm very much a normal human that I'm veiled. I have ego. I still get lost in pain sometimes. But man, I feel the veil right now. Like, for me, this is not like, oh, I believe this. No, I can feel it sitting in my consciousness. And I look forward so much to the day where that limitation set is relieved. Now, I'm not saying I want to die. I'm not saying I want to die. I'm just saying that this limitation set, I see it for what it is. Now, while I'm here, I want to fully use it. Like, I want to say yes to that limitation set. It's been hard. saying yes to actually being human and being limited and like feeling all the things that I feel and feeling everything that the body lifts up and actually fully experiencing all the context of Earth, it's not easy, but man, is it rich with opportunity. And so I hope, I try to just do that in my own life, whatever that means, to try to say yes and experience the now fully.
Well, that's beautiful, man. That's exactly what that's the message that I wanted to lift up. That's why I called the show One More Voice. Because I feel that I do feel that there is a renaissance going on. I do feel there's this great awakening that we hear so much about, and I'm like, I have been called to this my whole life. My whole
Amen,
life was
brother.
set up for me to be in this, doing this right now, I guess, because here we are. But I wanted to be one
Amen.
more voice feeding that collective. I wanted to talk to other people who are also feeding that collective ascension. And I feel people are more and more every day primed to hear it and receive it and understand it and then to
Yes.
start living it. I really feel that that's what's going on. And I know it is in my life and in my wife's life.
Yeah, I'll
So.
just share briefly that before I shared my pre-birth experience, I actually felt so it was about 8 years after it returned to me that I shared it, but I had thought about it within the couple years before that, and I actually felt like the ground is not quite fertile enough yet. Just not quite yet. And then one day I was driving down the highway, I was just doing a routine thing, and the message was like, it's time. The ground is just fertile enough now. Because the awakening is happening. Well, we call it the awakening. It's just a term. But in my pre-birth plan, I knew that that's just the era of the play that
Yeah.
we're in. The human race is going to try to do this crazy thing of really awakening in a very relatively short amount of time. Short might mean a few generations or something. It's not a long time. And that means a huge shift in consciousness and mind space from all the old patterns of fear to a more complete and full knowing of who we really are and to actual love and compassion. And I just saw that's what's happening. And man, it was like such an honor to be given a slot on Earth during this time. I mean, it is the coolest thing. Like it at this moment in the universe's unfolding, this is a very unique, special place, Earth, right now. So to be a human and be playing a human right now, even though most people maybe feel just pretty mundane about just surviving day to day. No, I mean, I recognize that, I get that, but oh my gosh, the opportunity for us is huge. So I just want to reiterate, like what you just said, to lift that up because we are here to participate in that awakening and to basically just choose love and joy where we are and for each other where we are. That's
Yeah.
powerful stuff. That's like working with the current, you
Yeah.
know.
And I'm with you on that sense of honor I've felt so much more lately. I was thinking about it with this interview today. Like I said, I was essentially a big fan of yours, and I'm like, I'm so honored to be a part of what you're doing too. People have told me, oh, they're honored to be on the show, that they were honored that I thought of them. Well, of course I'm honored too I feel like I now have a little connection with you rather than just hearing
Yes.
about and reading. It's like a personal thing. Then I get to be a part of your that
Yes.
I didn't even know it at the time, but I'm like, yeah, you're a part of mine, I'm a part of yours, and that to me is just a
Yes.
great honor.
It's a huge honor for me. Like when I try to sense into the energy of who I'm going to be working with or speaking with, so that we can kind of co-create effectively. Man, I'll just say the path you're on is beautiful. This thing you're doing here is beautiful. It's very valuable. So I'm honored to, if I could just give like a tiny little nugget into that's the
Well,
coolest. So yeah, I'm
well,
honored.
thank you.
Yeah.
It is. It's just I get chills here and there thinking about it, and I think in a
Yeah.
good way too. It's not like an egoic way. I'm like, oh, I don't
No,
know what
no,
to do is getting on here,
no, no, no,
but I'm
no.
like,
Yeah.
I know that. I guess my aunt. If I'm proud of anything, it's like I feel that I'm on the path, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
As much as I'm off the path, I'm like, I hit this one where I finally had the courage to follow something that I had an intuitive nudge about, and I didn't give in to the imposter syndrome. Like, oh, who are you to have a
Yeah.
podcast? And not only that, something as profound as to talk about spirituality and maybe give people little nuggets as to how they should be living. It's like, who am I to be doing anything like that? And I was able to just push that aside and like, well, you know who you are. You wouldn't have
Yes.
this beacon inside of you calling you to do it. And it's actually more egoic for me to, I think I'm special in the sense that nope, not me. Anybody else could do
Yeah.
it, but not me. So it's almost like a reverse of that egoic
Yeah,
concept, I guess.
it's interesting how we have to draw. The ego is trying to do its best. I mean, we usually think we're making the best choice because the other ones have got to be worse, even if we're choosing something painful, even if we're choosing something painful.
Yeah.
So, what we're talking about is having the courage to choose joy, man.
Yes.
This is a joyful path. It's not about pride. It's just when we align with our true nature, it's joyful because our true nature is joy. It's just wonderful. So, yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, well, and since you mentioned that, I have some personal friends and other people who've reached out to me is they've lost their way in the sense of they don't know how to get their joy back.
Hmm.
But I was just, I would give the advice of whatever it is that you know, if you're going to be honest with yourself and open-hearted, you know what you're passionate about. Just make time if you've lost, like I'm a musician.
Hmm.
And when life gets busy, the first thing that I push away is music. That's the one thing that I don't have to do. It only, in my mind, it only serves me. It's not helping pay the bills. It's taking time away. I have kids too. It's like, well,
Hmm.
no, we've got ball games to go to, and yeah, we could have
Hmm.
a rehearsal, but it gets in the way. But it's like that's one of my passions, and I feel I was born with that ability for one and the love for the other. It's like take those things you're passionate about and just do them. Even if you can't make money doing
Yes.
it, you've got to make room in your life for those things. But what kind of advice would you give to people who are like, there are times where I dread waking up every day. I love my family and I'm appreciative of that, but I dread what I'm doing and I don't know
Hmm.
how to get out of that. I don't know
Hmm.
how to get that joy back.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, let me just comment on what you were just saying about doing the thing that you love, even if there's not like money or something involved. So first of all, okay, we're talking about a shift in consciousness because, okay, we're here to wield an intention. And that means make choices that are in alignment with our true nature, which is love and joy and freedom. We all always have some of that compass left because it's what we really are. There's always a compass, even if it may be buried under 1,000 layers of pain and ego and scar tissue. There's always that clarity somewhere because that is our true nature. And so the first comment there really quickly is this is not about physical scope. I think a lot of people say, well, unless I'm like affecting all these people or creating this thing that sells a lot or something, we are so obsessed with commercialization in our society,
Yeah.
it's ludicrous. Whereas what we're talking about is a shift in consciousness that's not about scope, it's about quality. It's about quality. So, first, just a quick comment then that look for the quality of experience, not necessarily the scope, you know. You don't have to like measure. I've worked in business most of my life, and I know that there's this like almost unhealthy obsession with metrics. Take a measurement, look at the numbers. Well, we're talking about a shift in the quality of the intent that is wielded by consciousness itself, you see. And that can mean so many things. Okay, regarding your question more directly, if someone wakes up in the morning and dreads what's happening here now, okay, first of all, forgive yourself. Like, this is not easy. This limitation set, it's actually not charged. Okay, even though the physical experience can be very, very challenging and can have a heck of a lot of pain in it, it's actually neutral fundamentally. We apply the meaning. So it's okay that we wake up miserable, but one thing I'd point out is just notice your own meaning that you've applied to. Oh, but you usually have really good reason for that meaning. The world has proven to me that I'm powerless because look, I have this, and 87 reasons later. See, you're powerless. Okay, have the courage to actually recognize your part in applying that meaning. Okay, and then the second thing is put down what you're not. Okay, so what I mean is have the courage to just take a pause, and if there's something that doesn't feel good to you, it's actually not who you are, fundamentally speaking. Now, one thing I'll lift up here that's very practical to help with this is meditation. The practice of meditation is so very powerful because over time, it helps us create a space, a precious ledge of awareness from which we can see what is real, awareness itself, versus what is not actually fundamentally real. Our thoughts, actually. We're not actually our thoughts. You're not actually those negative thoughts that are spinning in your mind. Those are like forms that your mind is associating into and getting lost in. They're not actually who you are. So when I say put down everything that you're not, I mean you're even allowed to just drop the negative forms. It's okay if they come back. choose to drop them, choose to put down whatever association or responsibility or need that seems so darn pressing, and listen to your deeper intuition. What is the thing that at this moment or at this time in my life is more in alignment with joy and freedom and ease, actually, and fun? Now, it may seem buried, but it's always in there somewhere. The question is, are you willing to listen? And then when you hear it, are you willing to take action?
Yeah.
Because intention means action. I talk a lot about intention, but I once saw a video, I don't remember which source this was, but it was like, I think it might have been Bashar or something. And, he said something like, okay, hold out your hand, like put a pebble in your hand or something and hold it out. And he said, okay, now intend to drop it. And they didn't drop it. And he said, okay, did you intend to drop it? And they said, yes. And he said, no, you didn't, or you would have dropped it. You intended to hold your hand and think about intending. You see? So if we actually move in intention towards love, we will actually take action. And as we do that, we widen a path of joy. It's like the soul part of us says, oh, we're listening now. Here's more. Here's more. Here's the next step. We can always begin that process. So don't worry about the scope. Don't worry about all the stories, all the years of pain, and just today, just now. What could you choose or do or be or not choose or not do or not be that is more in alignment with joy and love and peace and freedom? This is an easy choice, actually. Now, the ego is going to have lots of good reasons. Be willing to not do that. Be willing to see those reasons for what they are. That willingness to see and to feel even the darkness and to choose something new, that willingness is the active ingredient. And that's hard because one of the things the ego does, it says, oh no, like you're powerless. And it's easier to believe in your powerlessness.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't, you'd have to take responsibility for all this stuff. I know that's not easy. And it's not about a negative responsibility. It's about an empowerment. Yeah, so that will mean different things for different people. It's hard to categorically describe all that. That's why I try to use more general terms. It can mean very simple, practical things. It might mean big changes. It might mean a change in diet or a change in behavior or exercise or something. It might mean a change in relationship. It might mean, you know what, I'm just going to spend 5 minutes and look out the window right now. Or I'm going to go take a nap. Maybe I'll take a nap for a week. You can make any choice you want. Like, do you know that any choice is okay to make, actually? Whoa. Really? Really? I'm not saying there's not natural, energetic, karmic result for all choice. Of course there is. I'm just simply saying that we are free. This is a free simulation. You're free to make any choice you like. So where does that freedom lead? What would you do if you could make a free choice?
And I think that's where a lot of people, of course, me included, get hung up is, I don't know how to, I guess it comes back down to scope too. It's like, I want to do it. I want to make a change. I want to quit my job right now. And yes, I'll say to myself, I trust the universe is going to, I don't know, support me and give me something, what it is I need to move on. It's like, I don't need to know the next few steps on the path. Just, I need to take the next one. But then there's that stop where it's like, I don't really trust that, or I would leave this job right now. Or I have kids. I have to support my kids. The fear is I'm going to end up homeless, and my kids are going to die because of the choices I made. That's where a lot of people are frozen.
Yeah, I relate. I understand. I understand that.
Yeah, we also have, in terms of scope, it's like that's the scope of the change that we want. But I'm really feeling what you're talking about with scope, because I've applied it to this podcast. It was like, I get all these offers through emails of, hey, we see that your content is great in your podcast, but your SEO, your search engine optimization is just terrible, and you need to use the right words in your titles, and you don't have thumbnails. But I'm thinking, and that gets to me. I'm like, should I push this out and try to make it something bigger? But I'm like, every now and then my sister will call me, or a friend will reach out to me and said, hey, that interview you did really meant something to me, or it really hit me. And I'm thinking, if for all I know, that's enough. That could be the whole reason I'm even doing it. Because it serves me profoundly. But if I reach 2 people, that's as good as anything. The quality of that is just as good to me. That's where I'm at with it anyway.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I've experienced that in my own work. I have felt clear, intuitive guidance as to how to share. And as an example, I'll just lift up one example. In my book, A Walk in the Physical, the whole book's on my website for free. Yeah. It can be read as a PDF. Early in the process, after 6 years of working on this, I was getting ready to share it. And I had someone who helped me review the book say, that's madness. You shouldn't do that. What are you thinking? And I'm like, no, like this has nothing to do with money. This is about quality. This isn't about outcome of scope. And people are looking for that. You know what I mean? Like we all know it's not about like it's not about money. It's not about numbers. It is about quality. And you know what? That's beautiful because you don't have to do the big thing. You can just go where your heart leads you right now. I'll lift up one example, and I've shared this a number of times, and every time I forget the name of the person who had this near death experience. Okay, so I apologize, but this one near death experience I read, this person was a child, and when they were a child, their parents stopped at a rest area and they needed to get water for their family in a bucket. So the child, this person earlier in their life, they had in their near-death experience, they had physically died, and they were seeing this moment again. They were reliving this moment again, where they carried the bucket down to the stream and they fetched water. And on the way to take the water back to their car, they saw a dry tree a little bit out of the way. And they took this heavy, uncomfortable bucket over to the tree and watered the tree first, and then took the rest of the water up to their family. That was like the most celebrated moment in their life. Now, to a human, you would say, is watering one tree that valuable? Maybe not to the human, but guess what? Spirit sees quality. It sees love. It sees genuine compassion and sharing. We can all do that. It doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. Anyway, so I really resonate with that. Like I've tried to always be very pure to that. I've done a lot of one-on-ones over the years. I've never charged anything. I've felt nudged to accept donations, but I've never charged anything. I know that might practically have to change because I do eventually want to move into this work more fully, and I don't know what form that's going to take, practically speaking.
Yeah.
But I just know that I want to serve first. This is not about outcome. This is not like financial outcome or numbers. This is about the individual. This is about the individual's experience, one individual. It doesn't have to be about millions of people. We
Yeah.
can all do that where we are. We can all do that with those in our family. Another example, I don't mean to go on too long on this, but another example that comes to mind is Tom Campbell, the physicist and consciousness explorer. I really love this man. He's such a beautiful man. He wrote a book called My Big Toe, which stands for Theory of Everything. And early in my awakening, I read My Big Toe. Somebody had interviewed Tom and said, wow, you must have known this book could help a lot of people and have a big impact. So, how did you do it? And he said, well, I did have a sense of that, but I would only work on it in the evenings after my kids went to bed for 20 or 30 minutes at a time, because I'm here to do that. I'm here to love my kids. I'm here to love my family, even if the book didn't get done, even if I didn't release it and all these thousands of people weren't impacted by it. I was here to love my family. That's the nature of love. That's what we're here to do, is love each other. And that really made an impression on me because I relate to that very much. Yeah.
I have a story like your tree story that it hit me deeply and made me stop thinking about this grand scope of accomplishment that you get sold as a young person. But it
Yes.
was um, it was a I think they were talking to a channel, actually. It wasn't a near-death experience, but this channel, these two sisters, they had a brother who was a severe alcoholic. He was living under a bridge at the time, and they loved him dearly. He was a good guy, a good soul, according to them, and they felt that it was their job to save him. They needed to save him, save his life, get him back on the right path. And they didn't. He died, I believe, of the alcoholism. And what the channel was able to receive, I think, from the brother, wherever the source was, I'm not sure, from, let's say, the other side,
Hmm.
was that his entire purpose for incarnating was to be that character for them in order to learn the special gift or trait of acceptance,
And
of
compassion. I
acceptance.
think I heard this story. I think it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
acceptance and
compassion.
compassion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe you could tell it better, but I'm like,
No, no, yeah.
it was just that it was like we don't we don't even know why we incarnated. Maybe it was here to do one act of kindness for one person, or um,
Yes, exactly. You got
when
it.
you're interacting with the person out on the street, that even if they're challenging you in a way to where you want to get pissed at them, it's like that could be the quote unquote angel sent to you to give you
It's
the
possible.
opportunity to do this one thing that you came
Yes.
here to do. And it's just like, yeah, forget about the scope. Just when you meet people one on one throughout the day, can you extend love to them and receive it
Yes.
when you get it back? It's a
Yes.
beautiful
And,
way to
and
live.
within yourself too. And within yourself.
Yeah.
This love, we talk a lot about, outward love. And can you be gentle with yourself? Can you like love yourself enough and honor where you are in your journey? Like, That's quality. That takes a lot of bravery sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It's about that quality.
Well, if you were to, I didn't even know you had written a book until the last time I heard your interview. I don't know how
Okay.
I missed that, and I haven't read it yet, but I have it now. I got it this morning. I've got my PDF, and I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Um, but if you were to take that, and maybe I should even frame it this way, even though I already kind of have, for those people, again, who are struggling and they think that they need to do something so grand as I'm miserable in my job, it's not
hmm
what it's supposed to be doing, and I need to just leave it.
hmm
What sort of words of wisdoms or tidbits would you give to those people?
So that's a very big question because each individual has a unique relationship with the world of form. So there's a lot of different answers. I'll just say two things real quick. The first is in general, in broad terms, when we talk about quality of intention, listen to that. So because love and freedom and joy can mean different things, and so can fear, so can ego. So it's less about exactly the circumstance and exactly the decision, and more about being honest with yourself about why you're making the choice you're making and evaluating that. Okay, now there's one element that I just felt now to lift up. So this is the one I guess I'll lift up to focus on. The okay, there is an intuitive sense that is in the direction of ease. Now, ease could mean staying in the job, of course. I work a mainstream job now. I have most of my last 21 years. I've only had 9 months out of those 21 years that I haven't been working a full-time job. I do intend to move out of that. But I also feel, okay, so there's like an importance to trusting. Okay, so the soul is like up on, this is just a metaphor, but it's like we're down in the woods and we can't see a darn thing because we're in the trees. We're surrounded by trees. We can only see 2 or 3 trees ahead of us. The soul can see the whole forest, okay? So it can see, okay, well, there's like a stream over there and there's a cool hill over there and it can see the landscape. And so this sense of ease is listen in the direction of that actual intuitive knowing. We all have that deeper intuitive knowing. It's very quick, it's very true, and it's about having the courage to actually feel it and listen to it. I guess that's the only thing I'll say to that, because the ego is going to very quickly want to like come up with stories and no, you know, trust yourself. Listen to your bones, not just it's your gut, it's your bones, but it's more than that. It's like listen to the real you. This is about being the real you. So that's another way you could frame this is how can you be more the real you today? Yeah.
And I think people might have that question because they feel so detached from it. It's like, I don't even know how to listen to my intuition. I don't even know what that is. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? How do I feel my bones?
Mm-hmm.
How does it come to you? Your
Okay.
voice.
Well, the way it comes to me now is very different than 20 years ago, personally. But what I'll lift up is simply this. Okay. We know, I'll put it in simple terms, even though it's not, this is a little bit oversimplified, okay? But we know it feels good. Everybody knows what feels good. Now, the ego likes to do the shallow feel good. You know, just drink the drink or yell at the person next to you so you feel good for a few seconds. I'm not talking about the shallow feel good. I'm talking about the real feel good. We all have that. And so if you can't think of it in terms of or feel it in some like deeper way, what actually would feel good to you right now? Not just in like a shallow placation way, but like for real. So I guess that's just one way I would lift that up.
Yeah.
Personally, the way I experience intuition is very different now because, okay, as we shift in our relationship with form, that includes our relationship with thoughts and sense data, the higher currents of knowing become much more clear. So I experience a sense of energetic awareness. So there's a lot of layers to that. And I won't go too much into that. I'll just say that there's a lot happening in energy that if you're willing to look, energy meaning in consciousness space, there's a lot of activity happening that's not just physical. And when we're ready to actually like not just listen to the thoughts all day, but be very clear and very alert and very willing to feel, this is about willing, like super willing to actually see and feel, then we also kind of automatically see and feel and know these very quick, deep currents or knowings that could either be energetic events or properties, currents that are unfolding in energetic space, or something even deeper and higher at the soul level where your soul just knows and sees, or maybe you're accessing what we call the Akashic Records, which is just a term for the database that maintains all the data. It doesn't really matter. We don't need to put a quick label on it. The point is simply, if we're really able to be clear and willing to feel and see, we can receive all sorts of very interesting higher guidance. Yeah, I guess that's all I'll say.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that whenever you do these, if there's one core message that you want to give to people, what would that
Yeah.
be?
Yeah, you're not actually a human. Like, I know it looks like we're human. I get it. Like, I know how ludicrous that sounds. You're not actually a human. You're you. You are the you that feels like you to you. And that you is a multidimensional being of love and joy. You are a multidimensional being of love and joy. And you have nothing to fear. That is the truth. Our true nature is love and joy. That is the most important message to lift up. Like, I know we get stuck in the gunk. It's okay that we get stuck in the gunk. Can we increase in alertness and awareness and consciousness to make a choice for ourselves and for others that is more in alignment with who we really are in the simulation? That's the name of the game. Yeah. So I guess that's the simplest way to put that. That's what I want to. That's what I'm passionate about sharing. Because it's
No,
true of all of us. Like, we are not, it's not like, oh, and it's okay if you don't feel that, know that now. It's still who you are. Like,
yeah.
that's like the main thing is we are so, and I'm feeling nudged to mention just one other quick thing. In the physical, we feel uniquely very separate from each other here. That is the thing that makes this experience so unique, is this degree of separation. This is not normal. Okay. There's so many systems where our connectedness is known. And so I once heard, I guess recently I heard Rupert Spira, he's a non-duality teacher. He said something beautiful. He said something like, in an awakened society, the first day that a politician goes into office, or the first day they go to school, I think he said, the entire first day of schooling, and not just a politician, I think he said something, really everybody. The first day of schooling should be around one message. You share your being with everything else. And so I want to lift that up.
Yeah.
You are not just separate. You share your being with everything else. There is a joy in that. That connectedness that we're always looking for and trying to fill that hole that we're always trying to fill with like random stuff. Like, we are looking for that connectedness and we actually haven't lost it. It's just really obscured in the depth of the simulation. So be bold. Go look. Go test it. Go find it. Pick up a meditation practice. Go look. Just be very objective. Don't make anything up in your thinking mind. Just go look. What am I beneath all thought? That's a beautiful thing. It's so freeing to discover it, and then it's like, oh my gosh, like this is the most important message. And how often do we hear it kind of day to day on the street? Not very often yet.
No,
But
no.
podcasts like this are the way we do it. We're
Well,
sharing this information
that's
with
what
each
I'm
other.
feeling. I'm like, I love the message. Well, I love it because it's exactly what I put in the trailer of the show. I'm like, that's the premise of the show.
Yes.
We're
Mhm.
energetic beings who chose to be here, and we're responsible for our lives. And also, we are ascending individually and collectively at this
Yes.
time. It's time for us to find our paths, to find what it
Yes.
is that lights us up and what we came here to do. And I really feel hopeful for that. I do feel people are doing that. And thank you so much for your message, for what you're doing. Like I said, I'm honored just to be a part of it. And
I'm
man,
honored, sir.
it's just
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much for the opportunity. And thank you, everybody who's listening today, for being human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I
thank you for being human. Like, nobody probably said that recently. I've said that on a few podcasts, but I mean it. Like, this is like, we're like the superheroes doing this. You're not just like a victim. Like, this is like, the thanks is to you
yes.
for doing this. Like, think of it that way. Anyway, so thank you for being human, whoever's listening today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If people want to reach out to you, find out more about you, find your book, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. I have a website, awalkinthephysical.com. And the book is available at the third link down on the book page of the website as an online PDF. It's also for sale on Amazon in print or Kindle, or the audiobook is on Audible. And I try to answer emails, but I'm really far behind. I'm like 450 emails behind right now. So I apologize if I can't respond. But my email is awalkinthephysical@gmail.com. And the Awalk in the Physical website has a bunch of talks and interviews shared
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of content. I recently put up a few videos on my own YouTube channel for the first time, a 3-part meditation series. If anybody's interested in meditation, I'm very passionate about that topic. So I'll just lift that up really quick.
And are you teaching other things as well on your channel for people?
I will be. I have many pages of ideas that are ready. I'm just waiting for the timing to feel correct. Like, this is like, I'm in my professional life, I'm a project manager, but I cannot project manage this part of my life. I'm working with spirit
Yeah.
quality
So
over outcome, right? Output.
it's
It's
in
not
your own
about output.
spirit.
Like this is about quality, not output. But anyway, no, I do intend to move more fully into that. Um, yeah, I'll just say
Well, I will put that in the notes. And if you don't
thank you.
mind, hang out with me for a second when the
Sure.
interview's over. But I think from here, I'll say farewell. And again, thank you so much for being here,
Thank you so much, brother.
Christian. See ya.